Do you know what employers want, what they're looking for, what they consider the top talents and skills for the workers that they're hiring today, that they're planning on taking them into the new decade with? Do you know what your specific strengths are? Do you know what you own in terms of talents and strengths and skills that are so much a part of you that they go with you into every situation you find yourself in? Most importantly, do you know how those things that the employers want and those things that you know you have intersect? Intersectionality is a really big buzzword in today's world. We hear it a lot. What does it really mean? Intersectionality, the way I'm using it this morning, is the place where people, their skills, their talents, their ideas intersect or meet with the systems and the processes that employers have in order to be able to produce their goods and services. And in that place where those things meet, you're going to ignite action. And action is what we need to be talking about. Intersectionality, that birthplace of action, is also the place you need to find yourself if you want to achieve success. So when you and your strengths, talents, skills intersect with companies and their needs and their systems, that's when you're going to get hired and you're going to start your dream job. Hi, I'm Cynthia Wade, and I'm the founder of DoOver.me. And we're here this morning to share with you 5 trends that are happening today that are affecting what's happening in the world of work tomorrow. We want to prepare you today for what you're going to need at work tomorrow. So let's tick them off. The first, and we're going to come back and talk about all of these a little bit individually, but the first is new behaviors. The second is technology. Duh, that makes sense. The third is the multi-generations in the workforce. The fourth is mobility, one of my favorites. And the fifth is globalization. So let's go back and break those down a little bit more. New behaviors. Think about all of the things that are happening in the world today. There's COVID. There's the racial unrest. There's the incredibly tenuous political climate. There's the equally tenuous economic climate, And there's an absolute need for all of us that's come out of all of those things to find that are authentic and meaningful. That's a real need for people these days, more so than it has ever been in the past. We need to make sure that we're taking into account how people and companies, because companies are run by people, are changing their behaviors because of all of the different things that are happening in the world today and how that's affecting what's happening in work. So human behavior, is a really important piece of what's happening now, how it's changing, and how it's going to affect the future. The second thing, as I said, duh, is technology. Oh my gosh. Can you believe phones, the cloud, Zoom, all kinds of platforms that are becoming available that allow us to connect and collaborate online, even though we're hundreds of thousands of miles away from each other? It's happening so fast that we can hardly keep up with it. And if you're a coder and can put together the codes that you need in order to come up with these new systems, boy, oh boy, the world is your oyster right now, because you can take that technology and deliver it, because everybody's looking for those things. How are we going to connect with each other? What's the next thing that the smartphone is going to allow us to do? How are we going to be able to collaborate even though we're miles away? That is just like a booming field. And like I said, it's happening so fast. The other thing that's interesting that a lot of people don't know about is all the behind the scenes analytical engines that are available that help us understand who we are and what we bring to the table. And there are algorithms and eyes in the sky that are paying attention to that when we let it. Big issue of privacy here, but they exist, and sometimes we're acknowledging them, and sometimes they're happening behind the scenes. But what those systems are designed to do is learn about us by what we do and what we say. And so one of the things that we talk about at doover.me is the understanding of who you are. Don't let it come from an eye in the sky. Let it come from you. And that time that you spend in self reflection and understanding who you are allows you to engage not only with other people more successfully, but also with the technology. The third thing that we mentioned was the multi generations in the workplace. Never before in the history of work have there ever been 5 generations working in the workplace. So, for the benefit of those of you who haven't heard this, or for those of you who just need a little bit of a reminder, here's the 5 generations. Number one, traditionalists, which are people that were born before 1946, they're getting to be a smaller and smaller part of the workforce, but they're still there. And so we still have to acknowledge that and pay attention to how we have to adjust for what they bring to the workplace. The second is the baby boomers, which are still, I think, with the exception of the millennials, the largest generation that we have in the workplace. And those are people that were born between 1946 and 1964. Many of those people are working because they have to. They're not retiring and going into their dreams of retirement and the golf course and embroidery and travel and whatever. They're working because they have to. They're also working because they're staying healthier and healthier, and they feel like they can contribute something. So that's a huge portion of the population that we need to deal with. And then there's Gen X, which is 1965 to 1976. And then there's the millennials, who are fighting with the boomers for the largest percentage of people in the workplace. It's a constantly fluid dynamic. And those millennials are the people that were born between 1977 and 1997. And then the newest generation is Generation Z, which were born anytime after 1997. So what you're realizing is with those 5 generations, there's 5 different ways of interacting with each other and with the workplace in general that we as future employees and employers have to be paying attention to. It's a really important part of the dialogue that we're seeing now around diversity, inclusion, and equity. When we talk about those things, we're not only talking about differences in gender, in sexual orientation, in ethnicity, in religiosity, in morality, in education. We're also just talking about the basic differences of people's ages and how that brings a different perspective into the workforce. The fourth thing, and as I said, this is one of the ones that is one of my favorites, is mobility. Now, mobility is a behavior, but it's an important enough behavior that it gets its own number when we're ticking off the 5 top trends. Why? Because mobility is hugely changing what happens to each of us, whether we're sitting in the perspective of an employee looking for a job or an employer who's trying to hire somebody. We all want to be able to be mobile and be where we want to be and do what we want to do when we want to do it. We all have this bit of technology that I talked about earlier, the smartphones. Yeah, there are portions of the population, especially in third world countries, that don't have as much access as we do here. Even in the United States, there are certain situations in which people do not have access to smartphones. But that too is changing constantly, and more people have access to the technology that gives them not only that smartphone, but that ability to connect with the internet, which means we can work from anywhere. And we want to be able to work from anywhere. We don't necessarily want to be able to go into an office anymore. We want to be able to work from our homes. We want to be able to work from our summer residences or our winter residences. We want to be able to provide and contribute from wherever it is that we chose to be in the world at that moment in time. Because another part of this is that we want our value, C equal paycheck, to be recognized not by the hours that we put in, but by our productivity, our contribution, and our impact. And we want to be able to give those things from anywhere in the world. Yeah, the world, not just the United States, the world. And we want to be able to do that not because you're measuring how many hours we're punching into a clock, although there are some jobs that are still going to need to have that. Generally speaking, we want to be able to be recognized for what I said, the production, the contribution, and the impact. The fifth thing that we want to talk about in terms of the trends is the globalization. And this started with the internet and all things that go along with that. And it has made the world a smaller and smaller place. So, one of the things that we have to be paying attention to is that we have the ability now to work for and work with and hire, if we're an employer, anybody across the world. Now, of course, this is job dependent. We talked on Tuesday, I think it was, about living and working in the world of COVID and getting a job right here, right now. And, one of the things we talked about, and one of the things that we have to pay attention to here, is that there are certain jobs that you can't take globally. And if you're looking for a job right here, right now, that's a great place to look because you want to be able to provide services at the place where they're needed. So, like we talked about plumbers or electricians or people that are doing construction, those are not jobs that can be outsourced globally. So, those are jobs that right here, right now, and for the foreseeable future are going to have to be done locally. So when we're looking at these trends, you have to realize that depending upon what your individual skill set is, what your individual industry niche is, and what kind of job title you are looking for, it's going to change. And those of you who are in those kinds of jobs that need to be happening on site are not going to be as affected by the globalization trend as some of the others of us are. But regardless, it's a big enough deal that we have to be aware of it. We have to be talking about it. And one of the things that is an important part of it is employee engagement. Because the competition for jobs is heating up because we can work so many different places, we have so many different options. The reality is that we as employees want to work for companies where we can stay engaged, and the companies that we work for want to continue to have us engaged because it's only when we're fully engaged with our companies, with the work that we're doing, that we're going to be able to contribute and make an impact, which is part of that behavior that I talked about that everybody wants to experience. So, as we wrap things up for today, one of the things that I want you to consider is how your individual skills and talents are fitting in with what's going to be happening in the future. That's what we're talking about. The entire month of October is focused on the future of work and how it's tied to your best resume, how to create and use LinkedIn most successfully so that it can be working for you even when you're not, how to create a virtual network on LinkedIn, a virtual network that can extend not just across the United States, but across the entire world, depending upon, again, the job that you're in, how to interview so that you're going to increase your odds of closing that deal for yourself and getting that job offer. And then how to intentionally navigate your career across the various different pivots that you're going to have to make in the next years in order to keep moving in the direction of your dreams. I talked a couple days ago, last week, I guess it was, when we introduced the October theme of the future of work. I talked about the Ringelmann effect. Have any of you looked up what the Ringelmann effect is and can explain to us what it has to do with Jeff Bezos' two pizza rule? If you know the answer to that question, send us an email at info@dover.me. That's DO-OVER.ME with the answer, and you're going to get a nice surprise. I'm not going to tell you what it is because then it wouldn't be a surprise, but I think you'll like it. So as we wrap up things today, I want to encourage you to check out our calendar of events on our website, doover.me. Everything is doover.me. It's really simple, DO-OVER.ME. That calendar of events is going to showcase all of the different things that we're offering for free this month that are going to help you understand what's happening in the future of work, and then how to tailor those things that I talked about, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, your marketing plan, your interviewing, your networking, to using your best skill set, your strengths, in order to be able to move yourself into the future of work. Make sense? Because I want to remind you that at doover.me, we bring together a team of professionals to work specifically with you. This is one-on-one. This is, there's some things that make sense for everybody to listen to, but our focus is really on helping you move ahead toward your dream job in your chosen career. It's who we are. It's what we do. And quite honestly, we have a good track record of success. So again, I'm Cynthia Wade, and I'm the founder of DoOver.me. And I want to tell you that I'm really looking forward to meeting you in the next coming days and to learning more about what it's like to be you. Thanks a lot and have a great day.